Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge that I am recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. So today I'm talking about the 3 things you need to be prepared for when you're entering into or delivering, facilitating or leading a significant change. And these are things that many people don't actually talk about when it comes to change, because it forms part of the struggle. Change isn't easy when you are leading a transformation, when you're entering into a whole phase or cycle of business, which is different to what's happened before. So remediation is an example of this, when something is going pear-shaped regarding your company's reputation, or there's things in the media, or if you're also looking at needing to improve the way your organization is performing, or even your department, or even your team. It's significant change I'm talking about here, where there needs to be a level of leadership focus. There needs to be a preparedness for what's ahead, because leading change is harder than even experiencing it. And there needs to be a conscious effort provided to the change for it to get traction, get momentum, and to stick. It's why when oftentimes if an organization is going through performance issues, or whatever it may be, a change of CEO is needed, because you need someone different to take an organization back up through its performance improvement and to get it back performing where it was. It takes a different leadership. It takes different leadership tenacity. And tenacity is a very good word for what you need, even if you're a change practitioner or if you're a change leader. And when you're facilitating change especially, an ability to cut through and to keep staying the course through the change is what will make the difference and have it stick, rather than elect to jump on the emotional roller coaster, which is inevitable when it comes to change. It's a certainty, it's a fact. It's like death and taxes. It's a definite, this is going to happen. So the 3 things you need to be prepared for, and if you haven't experienced this yet and you're about to introduce a major change, major transformation, introduce something entirely new, even in the AI landscape, if you're introducing AI, which really should be a positive thing, you are going to be introducing change into headwinds. And that's why I want to talk about these different areas. So the emotional response that you will receive when you start communicating the change, it's inevitable. You are going to get a full spectrum of emotional responses as a result of communicating the change. It's going to happen. Allow it to happen. Allow it to wash over you. When you're expecting it as a change leader or a change practitioner, then it almost puts you in that force of, I'm ready for it. It allows you to brace for it. But what I don't want you to do is antagonize and meet it head on and try and justify. Just allow the emotion to happen. And if anything, if there isn't an emotive response, be concerned. Maybe your messaging isn't actually landing if it is a significant change. Maybe people aren't registering it. Maybe you've watered it down too much. Maybe the words that you're using are too ambiguous, too broad, and people aren't actually understanding what the change is. And that can be an indicator or a red flag around, I haven't actually communicated it accurately enough. The second is get ready for challenging questions, or just questions. Just get ready for questions. If you haven't, once again, created the space for questions to happen, then that's a problem. You need to make sure that people, if they're engaging with the message, they will ask questions. Some may directly be challenging you through asking questions, may have all sorts of commentary and judgment in the question itself. That's okay. This is people processing, and you need to allow for that to happen, because people can't move on from things if they haven't been allowed to express themselves. And part of the change journey and cycle is allowing and creating the space for that. Once again, some questions are going to be quite logical, and I think that's a great thing. Sometimes there's very sensible questions. Sometimes it gets you to think about what it is that you've put together. It makes you think about maybe there's some things in the design aspect of the change that you're bringing in that you need to consider that you didn't think of before. That is why co-design is such a great thing. And then there are some illogical questions. Now, people will have judgment on, well, that was a dumb question. I don't care. I want all questions to be asked. And the problem with the judgment around dumb and smart questions is that it's irrelevant. It's about the expression that people have. It's about their ability to have a voice, which should always be welcome. And this is part of the respectful approach. I might have to point out something bleedingly obvious 5 times to people through this process, because they may not be hearing it the way I'm saying it. And so therefore, if they still have a question, I want to come back to them, and I want to let them know. Even if it's, what date is this going to happen? And I've said it 5 times. You have a level of empathy for those who are listening to your change message, because sometimes the blood can rush to the head about it from an emotional perspective, and therefore I can't really hear all of the detail. So while someone else in the room might be thinking, that's a stupid question because you just said it, I, as the speaker or as the person who's representing the change, is going to make sure that I have a level of empathy and respect for the person. Because sometimes I've sat in a room and I haven't heard the full message. I've gone away, I've read the pack 3 times, and then I realise, oh, right, so that's the date that this is all going to happen. It's allowing everyone to go through their process. So questions, if there aren't questions again, then either you've nailed it in your communication. I don't always think that is the case, regardless of how good a communicator you are. Or people may not be feeling safe to talk up in front of others to ask a question. They might send it through in other channels, which is why we have multiple channels for feedback. Because if someone's not comfortable in the room, they might be more comfortable sending it through via email or via a survey. So therefore, all channels are welcome. Their questions will be logical, and prepare yourself for illogical questions, and that's okay too. There also might be some questions that are a bit left of field, but it can get you thinking about things from a different perspective, and I think that's always appreciated. The worst thing to do is to hold a veil of judgment to people who ask the questions. The third thing to expect is a misalignment of expectations. That someone might ask a question, someone might have a comment, someone might challenge something because they've got a story in their head about what the change means, and is wanting to tell you what you're trying to convey. That misalignment of expectations is exactly why we communicate multiple times in multiple ways, so that everyone can start to trust and understand what is being delivered. That is why it takes more than just one briefing before, if there's a transformation, there should be multiple briefings before a transformation lands for people, including a briefing on what support's available, obviously, for the people themselves. But just be prepared for that misalignment of expectations. The fact that rumour mill can go wild, that there can be a big gap in communication between what people expect and what is being delivered because of old messages, because of history. Like sometimes you're really heading into a big headwind when it comes to a change. And once again, just expect that there will be a misalignment and that you will need to work through and play back and describe different scenarios, different circumstances, whatever it may be, stories that relate to customer journeys, whatever that may be, to be able to better explain what the change is and what it looks like for people. So 3 areas that I would say be prepared for: the emotional response, which could vary from subtle to extreme, questions to be asked, and that's not a threat to you and it's not judgment on you when people ask questions, whether they ask logical or illogical questions, it doesn't matter. Questions will be asked, so be ready for it because it's going to happen. And misalignment of expectations. Initially, that is how we start. It's where we all start at different levels. And even as you go through and you're delivering different changes and different pieces of the change, there might be misalignment of expectations again. And you have to revisit the messaging. You have to be clearer in how you're communicating. This is all normal when it comes to transformational change. So I just want to highlight that because people get, quite frankly, spooked when it comes to change, or they become very defensive when people ask questions or when there's an emotional response to things. From having delivered so much change through so many years, so many projects, a lot of the coaching I have to do is saying don't react to these things. You respond, you filter through, you see what's actually an issue because it's been brought up multiple times versus what's a whinge. There are different things and there are definite themes, and you want to have the level of listening for that. And experience brings you through that. The key thing I will recommend and say to you is that the best way you can lead change, facilitate change, be able to create ownership for change is for you to be solid in yourself regarding your emotional state when you're engaging with people. Be very clear about the messages even before you go in, and be able to be present and not have such a wound up perspective on what you need from a briefing or from a communication or even a meeting. It's actually about being clear on what you want to get feedback on, and making sure that if there is anything that you need to clarify or reinforce with people or have them reference or reflect upon, that you're very present to what they're asking so you can provide them with answers to bring them into a space of comfort. The faster you can get people moving through that emotional spectrum so they decompress, dependent upon the level of emotional response, then you're going back, engaging them when they are settled, to then talk to them again about this is what we're looking to do, then get the appropriate structures in place for feedback, multiple channels, as I said. Have your finger on the pulse around the sentiment of the people, the groups, the engagement, and then continue to move through the change. You as a change practitioner, facilitator or leader or influencer need to be the calm in the storm. As I talk about, there is an eye in the tornado or the cyclone. And so if it is a very emotive time, you need yourself and your leadership team or the leaders to be more in the eye of the storm and be the calm in amongst the chaos that may be perceived. Good leadership means that you are going to calmly walk people through this journey and also allow them to have their process and work with them through that. So I hope this helps a little bit. If you're leading change, if you're facilitating it, if you're influencing to try and get new ways of working happening, but if it's quite transformative and different for people, then really reflect upon how well you are and other teams and teams that you're working with are leading the change, because the change isn't led by the change manager. You're just a cog in a wheel, and you want to ensure that you're having the leaders be settled through that process themselves to be ready to engage, and then for every conversation that they're building their confidence up in both the product, in what's being delivered, and then this whole process of engagement will be far easier and far more successful. I hope this episode helps. I hope it gives you some reflection points for your change. And come to myvirtualchangemanager.com, sign up for the newsletter. We have some courses coming up soon. So if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll be the first to hear about those. And just remember that change matters because your people, the way you approach change, it makes all the difference. And change matters because people matter. Have a great day.